Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I know there will probably be some other people that are coming in as the time goes by. But I am very glad that you all are here today. My name is Becca Shelton, and I am a career advisor at the University of Richmond in the Career Services Office. And in my role, I work to provide career guidance and career support for all of our alumni, so no matter what school you graduated from within the university, as well as all of our current SPCS and MBA students. So if that is you, I am your person. So today we're going to be talking about managing stress and anxiety in the job search. And job search, I know at any point can be overwhelming and frustrating. But my goal today really is to be able to offer you practical strategies and have you leaving here feeling like you can be a little bit more in control and feel better about your own job search if you are going through one, or if you maybe anticipate that you will be in a job search soon. So before we dive into the excuse me. Sorry about that. So before we dive into the content, just wanted to note a few things for our webinar today. If you have questions at any point, and I hope you do, this is meant to be interactive, please use the Q&A function instead of the chat function. And the only reason I ask you to do that is because it helps me to more efficiently manage the questions and see what's coming in. If you have a question, if you see a question that you also like, you can use the upvote feature. And you also have the option, you should have the option to submit questions anonymously if you prefer. So without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. So what we will cover today is, I want to start off with a little bit about what causes our stress and anxiety in the job search. And I know some of you might be thinking, well, I could tell you exactly what's causing me stress and anxiety. But I think doing a little bit of a deeper dive into that will help us really to be able to uncover some stuff and figure out, what does this mean for me and what can I do to move myself forward? I also want to offer you, this is sort of the heart of the presentation today, is talking about some practical things that you can do. I'm a big fan of leaving presentations and information sessions with some tangible things to do and feeling like you can make some progress with that. And then lastly, I'll be talking about some resources either through the university, because as students and alumni, there are certainly some really good free resources that you have, and then some maybe more community-based resources if that's what you prefer. You see down there at the bottom, my contact information is there. And so you can feel free to reach out to me over email, or you can call my office line there directly, and that'll reroute you to my home line. So talking and diving into what is actually going on with this anxiety that we have over the job search. And really, excuse me just a second. Sorry, I had to fix something on my computer. So talking about really what is behind this anxiety, you know, job searching in and of itself, no matter if you are still employed or if you are in the unfortunate situation where you are unemployed and looking for a job, no matter what situation you're in, it feels like a huge task with a daunting end goal, that end goal being to find a job. And that in and of itself makes it feel extremely overwhelming. There's a lot of uncertainty with a job search, any job search. Because not knowing how things will go, there are certain parts of the hiring process that you cannot control, and job searching is full of it. And so figuring out how to deal with the uncertainty, because for sure it's not going anywhere. And so what are some things that you can do? Also with a job search, we often tend to, a lot of things in life, we tend to focus on the negative. And in a job search is no different. We oftentimes tell ourselves really scary storylines about, you know, no one will hire me, or there are no good jobs out there. And so really, you know, first of all, admitting and perhaps understanding that maybe this is something that I do or that I have done, and, you know, some strategies to sort of get around that. So things you can try to combat these, and this is the beginning of talking about some practical strategies, is thinking about the job search in baby steps. When we focus on the big end goal, that feels like way too much to tackle at once, right? Remembering that this is a process, this is going to take a while for you to get to that job offer and to accept it. And if we break it down and think about it in terms of baby steps, and we'll talk about that, some more details of that in just a minute. But that's really going to help you to feel like you can manage this in chunks rather than one big goal of finding a job. Shifting the focus away from the big goal and focus on controlling what you can. So this is a little bit about the first thing that I was talking about there with the baby steps, but there's also some other little things that you can do to really control the parts of this process that you can, and make it feel like it's much more manageable. And then the last thing here is finding inspiration from others who have been successful, to network within those that you might know or within some new contacts that you could make, and learning a new skill or two. And there at the end, like I said, we've got some resources, and I've got a couple of resources there for if you are interested in learning a new skill. But finding inspiration, reading success stories of people that have been through maybe a longer term job search, and really getting inspired to know that you can do this too is a really big part of this. This is as much about your mental health as it is about actually doing the applications and the work for it. Looks like we have a question. International student currently in the job market, getting increasingly difficult to get secured and worried about how can I use Spider Connect? Thank you. That is a very good point. And if you don't mind, I will actually address this towards the end when I talk about the resources that you have at your fingertips. But that is a very good question, a very good thing to think about. So first and foremost, taking care of the basics. I know it seems really simple, but again, this is a nice reminder. Full disclosure, I have been through 2 very active job searches myself. And most recently, before I took the full-time position that I have now at the University of Richmond. So this is something that is sort of recent for me. And so I might talk a little bit throughout today about some maybe personal stories that I have just to help relate a little bit more. But most certainly when you find yourself in a job search, especially if you find yourself in a search because it was very unexpected, maybe the pandemic affected your employability in a negative way, or maybe there were just some other changes at your organization and you were unfortunately found yourself without a job because of it. This can really take a blow to a lot of things. And so making sure that you are taking care of the basics for yourself first and foremost. Over here on the right here, this is actually Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I do recommend looking it up a little bit just to see what it's sort of about. But in a lot of ways, this relates to our job search, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic and what happened. Some people actually found themselves, the bottom part of their pyramid was being affected. And when you find yourself suddenly without a job, you can certainly at least worry, if not find yourself being really affected by just some of your basic needs. So first and foremost, attending to, do you have the things that you need to get by, right? Do you have shelter? Do you have food? And can you generally live? And I know that seems really simple, but for some people, that might be the situation that they find themselves in. So making sure that you're attending to that first. Some other things that you can do over here on the left, really thinking about first, do you have your basic application materials in order and are you happy with them? So reviewing your resume, looking at your cover letters, if it's been a while or you have never done cover letters, making sure that you really feel comfortable and that you are understanding what needs to go into them when you do get to the point of needing to write them. Looking at your LinkedIn profile, do you need to update it? If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, do you think that it would benefit you, or maybe looking at the features that it has, would that be something that would be helpful for your job search? I've done a couple previous webinars on LinkedIn, so you can check those out on the Alumni Relations YouTube page if you want to, or you can just reach out to me and we can chat about LinkedIn and see if that would be beneficial for you. But it is really robust. It's got a lot of great features, especially for those that are job searching. The next thing here would be to line up your references. So that's going to be a really important part of any job search, and you're going to want to make sure that you have people in your corner that you can list as a reference and who can speak to your great workability and your ability to be a really good employee. And so just making sure that you're at least jotting down their name and information and checking in with them to see if they would be willing to be a reference for you. Outlining what you're looking for and where. I think this is a really important step that, especially if you are unexpectedly in a job search, a lot of people sort of look this part over and think, well, I just need to start looking and applying for jobs right now. But taking a little bit of time, and this doesn't have to be a long drawn out process, but really thinking about what kind of roles am I looking for? Am I going to try to stick with one industry, or am I maybe looking for a few different types of industries? And geographically, where are you looking? Or are you in the situation where you're perhaps tied for maybe family or other obligations to a specific geographic location, and that would certainly affect your job search. One of the things that I first did when I found myself in a job search a couple years ago was I really took some time to think about, okay, within my chosen industry, what types of roles am I looking for? How can I transfer my skills, and how can I tell my story in a way that would make sense for the people in those roles? And geographically, I mapped out some areas that would be suitable for my family and I. And that was extremely helpful in organizing my information. So when I did sit down to look for a job, I knew exactly what my parameters were that way. If necessary, explore unemployment benefits. This would be part of taking care of your sort of basic needs, right? Unemployment benefits, they have changed a little bit since March for the better. And I think that they might still be offering a little bit more money per week for unemployment claims, and giving a little bit more grace to people that may be on reduced hours and whatnot, depending on your industry. So checking into an unemployment benefits is really important if you need to. And I would say personally with that, like, just get started sooner rather than later with that, because they not only are they overwhelmed since March, but they are just generally not the quickest organization in the world. So it's better to start that, even if you don't know that if you don't know 100% you'll need it, it's just better to go ahead and get started anyway. If you have a retirement count with your previous employer, do you need to roll that over, or are you just going to let that sit for a little bit? And that's something that the human resources department of that organization can maybe help you sort out if you have some questions about that. It's okay to let 401ks sit for a little bit if you need to, and then you can figure out where you might need to roll them to. That's not necessarily an immediate decision that needs to be made. The last thing here is taking care of yourself, right? So especially if this is an unexpected situation, making sure that you are taking the time to recognize that this is a loss for you. And with any loss, it doesn't matter what that was, taking the time to actually mourn that loss. And I know it might sound a little bit silly, but it is oftentimes our work in our society is tied a lot to our identity. If even just a little bit, it is difficult to imagine yourself without that identity that you are in. So taking some time to just remind yourself that this is a process that you're going through. And yes, this is very sad that perhaps you lost your job, but it's okay. And we've got some really good strategies to help you along the way. The first thing I have here is talking about getting yourself organized. I talk to a lot of people who are in current job searches, and you might be surprised this is one of the things that sort of falls by the wayside. Even if you're still working, that's, you've got your job that you have to report to and that you have responsibilities for. And or if you are in an unexpected job loss situation, it can sort of fall by the wayside to get yourself organized. So a few things to remember. One, treat this like it is a job, and it does require you to put hours into it. So one of the things that was helpful for me when I was looking for jobs in the past is to actually schedule time to work on this stuff and to break up your day, especially if you are unemployed and at home. If you're the only person in the house during the day, that is full of distractions. And so actually in your calendar, whether you use a paper calendar or whether you use another method to keep track of what you're doing, use block scheduling. And I'll talk about this in a little bit later, but using block scheduling to, say maybe for an hour and a half, I'm going to revise my resume. Maybe for 2 hours, I'm going to explore LinkedIn. right? So really just literally scheduling time to work on this instead of saying, well, every day from 8 to 5, I'm going to work on job search stuff. That's a really good recipe to get distracted and then get way off track and not do anything that you intended to do. Creating ways to track your applications, your networking contacts, and any events or things that you have done for your job search is really important too. In an active job search, you are probably applying to at least a few things a week, and it is super easy to lose track of all of those things that you have applied to. In today's day and age, when you're doing online application portals, you've got a lot of just information to keep track of. Not only do you have passwords to keep track of, which I do recommend putting those in a secure place because every application portal requires a different login. But with applications, you've got things like requisition or position numbers, which that's a good reference material when you go to follow up with the HR department to say, for this particular position is what you're looking for, right? You want to track things like what day you applied for it, any URL or pertinent links that would be good for that, like say link to the job posting, maybe who the contact was, like the number for the HR department to follow up with. You would want to also track in that who you followed up with, when you followed up with them, and what did they tell you. And so all of that stuff is really important to keep track of in the applications, just also because a typical hiring process would be a month is kind of on the short end, right? And so it could take an organization at least 3 to 4 weeks, if not a little bit more, from the time that you submitted your application to call people for interviews. And if it's been that long and you're in an active job search, you will probably forget what that job was that you applied for. So when they call you for the interview, you can say, oh yes, of course I remember what that was. And then that information, that job description that you saved, will be a really good way to remind yourself and refresh yourself on what exactly they're asking for. A big one here is write down your weekly goals. This was really helpful for me when I was going through this process. So either Sunday afternoon or usually Monday morning before I really dove into stuff, I would sit down and write down, okay, what are the things that I want to accomplish this week? And it didn't have to be really detailed, but maybe that one of those goals was refresh my resume because I was bored with it or something, or check on my LinkedIn contacts, or follow up with these particular jobs, right? Whatever those goals are, write them down and post them somewhere visible. So if you've got a laptop, or if you're, wherever your workspace is, or you've got a monitor, tape it to there, or just make it visible somehow for yourself. So when you are in your workspace, you're reminded of, okay, these are my goals and these are the things that I want to get to. And if you guys do have any questions, just feel free to go ahead and slip them in that Q&A button there. We don't have to wait till the end to get to questions if you guys have things that are on your mind. So the next thing I have here is really talking about, oh, wait a minute, this is not, okay, yes. Sorry, I didn't think it was my next slide. Really talking about aligning your expectations with reality. Remembering that, again, this is a process. This is going to take a little bit of time to happen because, as I said just a minute ago, the typical hiring process is not really, for a lot of organizations, it's not an incredibly quick turnaround time. So it's going to take a few weeks to even get an interview, and you're going to, it's going to take a number of applications to get where you want to get. So consider, I also said in here, consider expanding the types of roles that you are seeking. And so one of the things that was helpful for me was thinking about, okay, within my chosen profession of higher ed, I had been in career advising for a number of years. And I thought, well, are there other places in this industry that I see myself, other types of work within higher ed that I could transfer my skills to? Or that I could see myself doing, and that would be an easy story for me to tell, right? So this could take a little bit of time, but it could help you to expand the types of roles that you're looking for and to really increase your chances of landing that job. Do not stop applying until you have actually signed on the dotted line. I see this happen relatively frequently with people, is that, and it's a natural thing, right? Like you get so excited that you are maybe in the final stages of this interview process, and you're like, woohoo, and you're just sort of waiting for that call that you have the job, and you've stopped applying for stuff for a few weeks. Don't do that, right? You have to keep towards the goal and keep applying, because you don't know what's going to happen. And even though you're really skilled and there's a good chance, that you could get a really good job offer, you don't know. So keep applying until you have actually confirmed that you have that job and that you have a start date and that you have that contract with you. Very important. This is a good one to think about here about what are your priorities? One thing that's really helpful to a lot of people that I work with is thinking about, when you are looking for that next role, what are some red flags and must-have things that are really important to you when you are evaluating if a role is a good fit for you? Because throughout the interview process and when you get the job offer, it really, you should take some time to really think about, is this an organization that I see myself at? Do they align with my values? Is this a place that I'm going to be happy at for a while? And is this the type of role and work that I want to do? And I do know that when when you're in an active job search and you're unemployed and you really need a job, it's really easy to think, well, I'll just take almost anything as long as it's not this and this, right? But that oftentimes leads to taking roles, then you get into them and for a few months and you're not happy because it really doesn't align with what's important to you, right? And so this is a balance of, being picky and getting yourself something that you're really going to like and enjoy for a while, versus sort of job searching out of desperation, which can oftentimes happen if you're really needing a job. So really taking a chance to write down or, put in a Word doc, what are those things that if you got a job offer, if these things showed up in the role or the organization, it would be a complete red flag, and it would be very easy for you to say, absolutely not, I could never work there or do that, right? And what are some must-haves for you? Some of these priorities that you could be thinking about are geographic location. You could think about, does this work allow you to get to where you want to in the future? Their leadership and management style good for you? Excuse me. If you have been working for, a few years or more, you can, you probably know like what management style works for you and what doesn't. And if you sort of get a weird vibe from them through the interview process, or things make you think like, I don't know if that's going to really allow me to be a very successful employee, maybe that's something that you consider if and when you get the job offer. So really making a list of priorities and figuring out, what are those things that would make you say absolutely not, and what are those things that would make you say absolutely yes, I would take this job in a heartbeat. And this can also help you when you are looking for jobs, and if you have a list of jobs in front of you that you're looking at, you could easily say yes or no to them whether you apply or not. Remember that it is absolutely okay to say no to a job offer. Again, when you are in active job search and you're unemployed, it is very easy to think like, oh my goodness, the first job offer I get, I am saying yes to this because I just need something. I have turned down a job offer in the middle of a job search, and believe me, there were people in my life that thought I was absolutely crazy and off my rocker, but it was just not something that would work, right? Maybe the pay is just to the point where it's just not going to allow you to live. Or maybe it's in a location that's just, they won't let you work remotely, or they won't budge on anything. Or you're maybe just having a really bad feeling about it. It's okay to say no to a job offer. It might feel really weird, and you might have a little bit of quote unquote buyer's remorse and think, oh, I don't know. I don't know if that was a good decision. But if your intuition is telling you at some point, like, this is just not good for me, that's something that you really need to look at. And thinking about this is a really wonderful opportunity. This could be the chance where you maybe explore a new industry, or you align yourself with another kind of role that would allow you a little bit of a career pivot. right? This could be a great opportunity, even though it might be really frustrating right now. So one of the last things I have here, oh, excuse me, is taking care of yourself. And I know, there's a lot in our culture now about treat yourself and a lot of things, taking care of yourself, but really in this situation when you're job searching, even if you are currently employed or if you are, unemployed and looking, it doesn't matter where you're at. You still need to remember to take care of yourself. So one thing that's helpful is keeping a consistent schedule. And so again, consider block scheduling. So whatever that method is that you use to keep track of what you're doing during the day, when you, instead of 8 to 5 every day, mapping out, from this time to this, I'm going to do this particular thing. And remembering to take a break. I would recommend working for like an hour, hour and a half, and then taking a 20-minute break, 30-minute break, just to get yourself up and away from the computer, and to get yourself a change of scenery and to just get out of the mindset of job searching so you can come back with a refreshed look at it. Decluttering your physical space is really important. At least for me personally, it's hard to work in a space that for me feels like it's got too much stuff going on, or if I have, now I do love Post-it notes and they're kind of everywhere, but not having piles of stuff that I don't know what's in it. So whatever your definition of organized is, make sure that your physical space meets that. Making sure that you are, this is especially true for people that are unemployed and job searching, making sure you are, again, taking care of the basics for yourself. Are you keeping up with your laundry? You don't have piles and piles of laundry everywhere. Dishes, making sure that you're paying your bills to the best of your ability. Or if you, are having trouble with that, talking to the people that you owe bills to and say, hey, this is my situation. Is there anything we can do to work this out? Because oftentimes, especially in today's day and age, since March, a lot of organizations are more understanding about the space that people are in. So really, the next thing here I have is thinking about your budget, especially if you are not bringing in any income right now, or maybe if you are bringing in income through unemployment benefits, that's probably still different than what you were earning before. And so really either revisiting or creating a new budget for yourself. So when those bills are due over the next few months, that you feel confident that this is your plan to tackle them, and that paying bills is not another anxiety producing situation in your life, because that's just not what you need. Making sure that you are reaching out to your support network. Talk to others. And I think the most important thing here is celebrating your wins that you have throughout this process. There are a lot of wins. Excuse me. Thank you. There are a lot of wins that you can have throughout a job search that do not include getting a job. Some wins could be maybe you got an informational interview with somebody that you really admire or that you think can really help you throughout this process. Maybe your win was meeting all of your goals for that week, and that's really exciting, that you didn't let distractions get the best of you. So I think the big thing here is making sure that you're reaching out to people in your network, you're talking to them about what's going on, and you're celebrating the things that went really well for you, because that is very important for your mental health. Picking up a small project. Funny story, when I was in a job search, my husband looked at me and he said, well, now maybe you can actually do the projects that are sitting in the garage that you started a couple years ago. So I did. But maybe if there's a project that you had intended to finish and you didn't, I am also the queen of unfinished projects. So there you go. Or learning a new skill, something that's attainable. The important thing here with learning a new skill or doing a project is to pick something that is easy for you to accomplish. Because in a job search where there's a lot of things that we can't control, picking a project or learning a new skill that is really, really challenging is just not good, because it's gonna, if it doesn't end up happening for you, that's just gonna feel like another thing that did not go right. So, learning a new skill, maybe brushing up on something that you haven't visited in a while is a really good thing to do. Free is my Free is my favorite word here. Finding free activities in your community to do, especially as things are opening up, but doing them in a safe manner. Or maybe there's some free online stuff that's really interesting to you. But anything that's not the job search here is the key. And so making sure that it's something that you thoroughly enjoy, that if you can get out of the house, get out of the house, or if you can just do something different for a change of scenery, really important. Do you need to maybe talk to a non-biased third party here? And so what I'm really talking about is a therapist, and I've got some resources on the next page for that. But again, as I said earlier, this is a lot about mental health. A job search, of course, you do need to, get your resume in order and do the applications and actually do the work. But a lot of this is mental health and sort of getting over some of your own roadblocks. And, if you're doing some things that I've recommended or things that other people are recommending throughout a job search, and you're still sort of finding yourself in a rut, maybe you really need to find a therapist or a non-biased person to talk to that's not somebody really close to you that would say harmful things like, well, why didn't you take that job offer? Or, just other things like, well, I don't know, just apply for stuff and you'll get a job. Somebody that can really listen to you and understand and take in what you're saying. So just something to consider. And also the last thing I have here is, again, in the spirit of happy thoughts, posting inspiration around your workspace. I have currently in my workspace, I have like things taped to the side of my monitor that are just sort of fun or inspirational for me, and just stuff that keeps you motivated and keeps you going throughout this process, that when you look at it on a daily or weekly basis, it's something that's really exciting for you. So just a few resources that I thought would be really helpful when we were talking about, learning a new skill or maybe brushing up on an old one. So if we have any current students on the call, and that would be a student in any of the programs, so that would be all of our undergrad students, but also maybe our SPCS and MBA students, you get free access to LinkedIn Learning. It was formerly lynda.com, but it got acquired by LinkedIn Learning. And so after the presentation this week, I will send out, I'll send out these slides for everybody so you can access the links that I have here. But there is a place where you can, with your general University of Richmond login, you can access all of this for free. And LinkedIn Learning is wonderful. It has a plethora of courses on a lot of different topic areas. Even if you're looking for something basic like Excel skills, or if you're looking for some more detailed things like maybe graphic design or some specific softwares, it's got a lot of really great things on there. So I definitely recommend checking that out. Coursera, I know that there are a lot of other different types of online learning platforms nowadays, but Coursera has been around for a long time, and I do know that they're offering some free classes, and you don't have to they are free for current students, but you don't have to be a current student, I think, to access some of the free stuff. So definitely check that out too. And also, so if you if we have some alumni here, SPCS, our School of Professional and Continuing Studies, has a very robust offering of classes, and they do offer a tuition discount for any University of Richmond grad. So definitely check that out and give them a call if you're interested. And I see your question, and I will get that just a minute for the third-party hiring organizations. So the other thing I have here is community support groups, again, sort of in the spirit of taking care of your mental health, but also surrounding yourself with people that are in your same situation. Because if you find your comrades, that makes it feel like, okay, well, I'm not alone, and there are other people that I can, talk about what's going on and maybe talk about some strategies that we can use to feel better about this. At least in the Richmond area, there is JAM, which is the Job Assistance Ministry, and there's career prospectors. And I know people that have worked with those organizations, and they get a lot out of them. And again, if nothing else, just knowing that there's a lot of other people out there that are in your situation and that you can talk to them about it. Working with an advisor in the University of Richmond Career Services office. Definitely recommend that. We are all holding the same amount of advising hours throughout the summer. We don't we don't reduce those advising hours, so you can access that through Spider Connect. If you go to careerservices.richmond.edu, you can access our system and you can go ahead and schedule an appointment with an advisor. And this would be a good chance to talk about the question that we had earlier, how to use Spider Connect to find a job. So Spider Connect does a few things for us in our office. It allows you to schedule appointments. It allows you to view some of the resources that you have access to. And it also has the job search feature. And that offers, it functions much in the same way that you would see on Indeed or another sort of job search place, where you can save searches, you can star and favorite positions that you can come back to and apply for later. And you can also do some keyword searches and find specific things that might be better suited for you. So if you are interested in accessing that or figuring out how that might work for you, feel free to set up an appointment with me, and I will be more than happy to walk you through that, or any other advisor in the office also. But Spider Connect is really good, especially for current students or recent grads that are interested in finding opportunities. And the opportunities that we have on Spider Connect are coming from employers that have recruited with us in the past or are new to recruiting with the University of Richmond, and they know the quality of our students and graduates, and so they are excited to hire our spiders. So the temp agencies here, third-party hiring organizations, or some people call them headhunters. I like recommending this to people. I think sometimes it sort of gets a bad rap. I don't really know why, but it can be a really great way to alleviate some of the stress associated with a job search, because with a temp agency, at least you have somebody, assigned to you that can work with you, that is in your corner, and they're doing some of the legwork that you're also doing for other parts of your job search. They have companies and organizations coming to them saying, hey, we have this immediate need that we need to fill. This is what we're looking for. These are the skills we need. And the people that work at the temp agency can, look at the job seekers that they're working with and say, okay, well, I think that so-and-so and so-and-so would be a really good fit. Go ahead and apply. So it takes some of that legwork out for you, and it really helps you to find more opportunities that you might not have known about. Recommendations, I will tell you sort of the more prominent one that I know about in the Richmond area, which is not the only one, is Robert Half. And Robert Half is a national organization, so Richmond's not the only place that they're at. But Robert Half has been around for a good while, and they're pretty reputable. And they do span a variety of industry areas. Now, keep in mind too that with temp agencies, there are a lot of temp agencies that are dedicated to certain industries. Like if you're looking for work in the tech industry, there are definitely a number at least in the Richmond area that I know of. And again, that's just what I'm familiar with. So if you are outside of the Richmond area, there might be some other ones that are specific to where you are. But places like the first one that comes to mind is Cap Tech for the tech industry in Richmond. But there's a lot of other ones. And so you could try to do a little Google searching and see for your particular industry, are there certain ones in my area that you could work with? And so the last thing here is talking about mental health resources that you have. There's a lot of them. And I'm really glad that our society is paying attention more and saying that mental health is important, because it is. So taking care of yourself that way. So for current students, you have access to CAPS, which is the Counseling and Psychological Services. I have a link to it there. So they have a lot of things that you can access throughout there, and you can figure out what they are on their website. I put TAO on here, which is Therapy Assisted Online. That is a new resource that they started offering last year, and it's gotten a lot of good traction and feedback. but it is a way to access. You're not really necessarily getting connected with an individual therapist through TAO, but it's a lot of really good online resources that you can do from the comfort of your own home. And students have seemed to really enjoy and appreciate that. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. I have here mindfulness. And so once a week, our very own Roger, I'm not even going to try to say his last name because I'm probably going to butcher it. But Roger's a really, really wonderful person, and he does weekly mindfulness sessions. You can access them through the Alumni Relations Office for their calendar. So if you go to alumni.richmond.edu and go on their calendar, you can figure out when Roger is doing his mindfulness sessions. But he does them virtually, and they're just wonderful. So if you're into that, I definitely recommend checking it out. A very, very brief mention on, or not mention, very small list of some of the access that you have to getting connected with a therapist. So starting with NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Health hotline, can help you figure out, is there a sort of little cheaper bit of therapy that you can access in your hometown. BetterHelp.com and Open Path Psychotherapy Collective are just a few that are they're more nationally based, because I don't know where, people that come to my webinars come from all over the place. And so depending on where you're at, you might be able to find some help there. And I know that Open Path works with people who need maybe a sliding scale, if that's, if you find yourself without a job and the income is really limited, or if that's just what you're looking for. So definitely recommend checking those things out. So we did have somebody chime in here on the question. So on resources, you may wish to find local network or professional groups, which often lower. Yes. So a lot of times, professional development organizations, and they're specific to the industry that you are in or that you are wanting to be in. They will oftentimes offer a much lower price for current students. And it is also, so thank you, Marcia, a really great networking resource to meet new people in the industry, and particularly in your geographic area. I remember from when I was finishing up grad school, I made sure that for my state organization, which is called BASE, I made sure that I got that student membership for $20 a year. So that would get me through the first year of my working as a professional in the industry. So I do highly recommend checking that out. And a quick Google search can tell you what organizations, either nationally or state-based, are in your particular industry area. So thank you for that comment. So that is about all I have. If you guys have other questions, please feel free to stick them in the Q&A box there. But the last slide I have, this is something that has really gotten me through a lot of stuff in life, and including job searches, is to remember to trust the process. And I know I've said a few times today, this is a process. It is. Reminding ourselves that this is just not a one shot, like a one and done deal. This is going to take some time and patience, but to trust the fact that you are doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. You're doing them to the best of your ability. And that this is a process that will work itself out, right? So just remind yourself of that. This was one of the inspirational things that I had posted in my workspace that really helped me to get through some tough days. So I hope that you also find that inspirational. So we do have a couple more minutes for questions if anybody has any. And I wanted to let you know here too, again, my contact information. I will send out these slides to access the information again, and to also get to some of those links. But please feel free to reach out on an email, or you can just give me a call, and you can check out careerservices.richmond.edu to see the other resources that we have, and also to access Better Connect, our online job search database. And also I'll put in a plug here for the Alumni Relations Office, who has been wonderful to work with, and they are doing some really great programming, which is how you've accessed this, but alumni.richmond.edu, and you can check out their full suite of calendar events that they have coming up. which is some really fun stuff, right? This was not, job searching is not a particularly exciting subject, but it is really important. But they have some really fun stuff like cooking demonstrations and other things that are going on that are a little bit more lighthearted. So I think we have another, oh, thank you. I appreciate it, whoever said thanks, and well done. So I will leave you all with that. And again, please feel free to reach out and know that we are here to support you no matter where you are in the process. So hope you all have a wonderful day.